What's up, everyone? I'm coming on live today on my Instagram because I want to talk about my experience with Chris Brennan's Hellenistic Astrology course. And I just thought it was really timely to be able to do this since I just got my certification yesterday, and I wanted it to be fresh in everyone's mind, and it's fresh in my mind, so I wanted to go over it. So again, this is going to be a quick talk about my experience with Chris Brennan's Hellenistic Astrology course. And I'm going to talk about first like why I decided to do it, and then talk about my experience through it, how long it took me, etc. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about what I liked about it and any advice I would give to other people who are thinking about taking the course. First of all, I'll say I would highly recommend anybody that's interested in astrology take this course. But first I'll go into why I decided to do it. So here's how it started. I got into Vedic astrology around 2017, and I was really watching KRS astrology, a really awesome Vedic astrologer on YouTube. I was really enjoying his content. I got a reading from him. He was great. And then I kind of switched over to modern astrology, and I found a modern astrologer, and I was really into their work and everything. And I followed them for a really long time. I supported them, and I was just really like impressed with this person's ability to kind of like spitball, meanings and what everything is supposed to mean and the transits. And I really looked up to this person, and I eventually had the opportunity to meet this person. And unfortunately, it was a bad experience. And I realized the unprofessionalism of this astrologer was just a big like letdown. And I just had there was a bad taste left in my mouth, because this type of thing, astrology, is an art, and it's also a science. And when I think modern astrologers can sometimes be too far into the art side and the interpretive side and spiritual side, and then leave out a lot of the logical, academic approaches, technical elements. And that can be a downfall of some modern astrologers. Not all of them, but this one in particular leaned very heavily on interpretive stuff without adding any like academic, rational, logical meaning. And so mixed with the lack of professionalism of this person, and the fact that it relied heavily on their persona and their ego, I got really discouraged. And I was like, I know that there's something to this, because the Vedic astrologer was able to tell me like all about my past and what age and what sign they were going to be, like people in my past. And like, it was so accurate. So I knew there was something to it, but I was still approaching this as a skeptic. And I was like, I just was sad from that experience. So following that bad experience, I was living in Denver at the time, and I realized that Chris Brennan also lived in Denver, and there were actually meetups that were going on at Mercury Cafe at the time before the pandemic. And so I was really excited to go to one of these meetings in person. And so I went, and there was a speaker there, and they were another like really professional astrologer. And like my experience at this meetup was so different than what I had experienced before. And I was so impressed with the level of professionalism and the academic approach and the rationality and the fact that, Chris Brennan has written a book, and it's a technical historical manual of old astrologers of the past that existed, and talks about their work. And I just found that to be such an inspiring approach, because it's based on an academic approach. And so I was so impressed by, the different atmosphere that, was in contrast to what I had experienced. And so, I was able to meet Chris Brennan. I talked to him, and he was like, oh, already just first time meeting me, telling me like, oh, let's get you to do a talk, let's have you do a talk soon. And I was like, oh my God, like, wow, this is great. And, yeah, I was just so happy to be like, wow, there's somebody in my city that I can like interact with that is legit. And upon my research of Chris Brennan and everything, like, I was just like, this dude, like, he's so legit and really cool. So, on top of that, he's an excellent teacher just in general. And so, I had been looking to invest my money into my education with astrology. And so I decided to sign up for his course right away. And so I did. And that was in the summer of 2019. Now, that timing was probably a little bit problematic, because I, at the time, was doing my best to move out of Denver and leave behind my old career and transition my life completely. And so I was really busy with all of that. My personal life was very turbulent, moving out of state, and I was planning to go to Las Vegas for yoga school. And so I ended up finishing yoga school in end of August 2019. And then I was in Vegas, and I was trying to find jobs, and I worked at a crystal shop for a little while, and and then I switched jobs to do a yoga job, and then it was just all very turbulent, and I couldn't really get my feet planted, stable. So I was very distracted, and wasn't able to like focus on the school. So, it was always in my mind on the back burner, like, oh my gosh, I need to finish this school. But life was so overwhelming and challenging that it's just, it was hard to focus on it. So eventually the pandemic hit, and at that point, it was pure survival, and I had lost all focus. And so I was, just like everybody else, completely scared, depressed, desperate, trying to just survive. And, I tried to make some money for myself using Patreon, but ultimately I just didn't feel solid in myself, because I knew I hadn't finished the school. So I was just like, oh, I just need to finish the school, blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, I just didn't feel educated enough. And then, coming out like 1 year after the pandemic, and I moved to Reno. I'm living in Reno now with my parents, and immediately develop multiple sclerosis. And all of 2021 up until this point has been me dealing with that and getting diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and it's just been so crazy. But in the midst of all of that, I was doing my lectures. I was, this was like in December, like right when I moved to Reno, I hit the lectures hard, and I noticed I was more able to focus and listen to the lectures when I had them on double speed. And so, I've been in therapy talking to a counselor, a therapist, and I'm going through that process, and I realize he brings up the fact that I probably have ADHD, and so I need to go get tested. And so I'm like, oh my God, I've been so hard on myself this whole time. I can't focus. I can't concentrate, and all this stuff. And I'm listening to lectures on double speed, and it's really easy for me to focus. And so anyway, add ADHD on top of all of that, multiple sclerosis diagnosis and everything that's going on. But in the midst of that, I finished the lectures, which were hours long, and I finished the final. It was a really hard push for me to just like sit down and get it done, and I did. And over the course of that whole time, it was 2 years from start to finish, from ordering the course to completing the course, 2 years. And that isn't to say that I couldn't have finished it if I was able to sit down and focus in, a much shorter time. But with all the stuff that life was throwing at me, that's just how long it took. And so that's leading me towards the things that I liked about the course, which was there are no deadlines. You order it, all the information is provided to you, and you can do it at your own pace. There's, you don't have to turn anything in. It's like there's a quiz at the end of each section to make sure that you get the key points, and you can go back and retake the quizzes. And it was really nice to have, that type of educational tool where it's just like very forgiving, but still very intensive, and you have to know what you're doing in order to pass. So it was a good amount of like forgiving and easy in a way, but also very challenging, technically. So there were no deadlines, and so I really liked that about the course. It's very thorough. It goes through every single thing that you could ever ask for, and I think it's constantly being updated, as far as like if he feels like he wants to add something to the course, then all of a sudden it will pop up and you get the course for the rest of time. So it doesn't expire. It's really nice in that way. And I'm even going to go back and re-watch the lectures and take better notes, because I wasn't taking notes through a lot of it. Some of it I was, but that's leading to some advice that I would give people who want to take this course is like, as you're watching the lectures, you are able to change the speeds, which helped me out, but take notes and take time-stamped notes. It's a lot of material, and there's a lot of supplemental reading and everything that's optional, but timestamp your notes so that you can go back, because it could be hard to find that one thing that you were looking for, and you don't want to have to rewatch hours and hours of the lecture. So that's one piece of advice I would give, is take good timestamped notes, but also when you finish the course and you are waiting for it to get graded, that process can take a couple weeks. My advice would be to get prepared to start taking consultations, because the moment that you get your certification, you want to ride that wave of using that as leverage to get you clients. And if you're not ready, for example, you might want to get a newsletter going so people can subscribe to your newsletter and have contact with you in that way, or have your social medias ready. Like, prepare yourself for like during that time. Like you turn in your final test and you have a couple weeks to prepare yourself. So get your ducks in a row so that when you pass and you get certified, you're ready to go right away. Yeah, and so another thing I would say is as you're going through the course, make sure that you take a peek. You can peek ahead, peek at the final, peek at the quizzes. Because for me, if indeed I do have ADHD, I have a memory problem. Like short-term memory is horrible. And so I need to write everything down, or else it's gone. I have to go back, and so if I didn't think about this as it was happening, because I'm very like linear, so I would watch the lectures and then I would look at the quiz after. But in reality, you can look at the quiz first, kind of see what subjects are going to be addressed, and then make sure you take really good notes on those things so that when you take the quiz, it's much easier. Okay, so take a peek at the quizzes, before, you sit through all the lectures, because I think that helps. And at first I thought, oh, that's kind of cheating. I'm very literal with rules and regulations, so I thought like, oh, maybe that's cheating to look ahead or look at the final. And in retrospect, it's just like, no, that would have really helped me to be able to kind of like know what's on the final as I'm going, so that I can like really pay attention to the most important parts. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. I wanted to just explain my experience with it. I highly recommend you take the course. This is my first certification in astrology. However, I don't know if it will be my last. I am the type of person that wants to get certified in everything. And so, there's other certifications that you can get as well, in addition to this one that is like amazing. There's ISAR, there's the American College of Vedic Astrology, there's NCGR, there's OPA. There's a lot of other astrological organizations that offer certification, and I don't know who else offers courses, but I would just be really careful of who you're getting it from. Make sure it's a very legit person, you know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of astrologers, they want to make that coin, and they want to take advantage of teaching before they're ready. And so, Chris Brennan is definitely qualified to teach a course. He does an excellent job. He's so thorough. It's the type of teaching style that I thrive in, which is just very kind of like, I don't want to say over-explanatory, but it's like he says it, and he says it in many different ways, so there's no way that you can lose the point. Just so thorough, just super thorough. So the teaching style was really helpful for me. And so, yeah, I would just say be careful, like, who you're getting your course from, who you're going to give hundreds of dollars to. Chris Brennan's course is extremely affordable for the value that you get, and especially to make a connection with Chris himself, like, legend. He's a legend. Like, it's just amazing to be able to like be in contact with him and have his support. But yeah, there's other places you could get certified. I would stick with the schools, particularly, the ones I mentioned: ISAR, NCGR, OPA, American College of Vedic Astrology. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different avenues to take, and I will leave this video off by saying you don't need to get certified to practice astrology or to be an astrologer. You are legit teaching yourself. Some people thrive that way. I'm not one of those people. I like to I don't trust myself. I wouldn't want to teach myself. I don't find that to be a good strategy for me. But there are some like genius kids out there that can teach themselves, and it's perfectly legit as long as you can back your knowledge up. And like I said, you're not leaning on too much of the artistic interpretation, and really reading your history, really reading the books that came before you that we're lucky enough to still have, like the old texts, the old astrologers, Vedius Valens, Ptolemy, Guido Bonatti, whoever came before you. Study the people that are legit. Study their work, read their books. You can teach yourself, but just make sure you're using your resources that are available. So I hope that covers everything. I really appreciate you watching, and I will be opening up readings relatively soon. So just follow my social media. I'm Astro Yogi Amanda on pretty much everything. So follow me and stay in touch, okay? I will see you later. Bye.